welcome Coleman Report Live, our new pivot. We're now doing a daily show. Katie, good to see you. Chris Hearn, CEO of Fountainhead Capital. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you. We have a lot of content, as we all know. Joseph, go back to the previous. Yes, download the certificates that prove that you are getting training. And because that's one of the first things SBA and your regulators ask for you. So we provide that. Let's go to the poll questions. Is your SBA lending department increasing staff to handle the demand for 7A loans? And Chris, I'll toss this back to you. Is that what you are doing?
More than likely, yes.
Very good. Number 2, is your institution capable of making $10 million SBA loans? We don't know if that's going to, Chris, is that going to happen? I know Rubio suggested that. Is that going to happen?
Well, it's not just Rubio, it's McConnell. It's the primary final bill that's going to come out of the Senate, which I think is going to go to a vote probably this weekend. So, and our answer is yes.
Wow, look at that. Look at those responses.
Yeah, well, we're gonna need those folks.
And I'm all for that. Put me down for that. Number 3.
$10 million.
Is your institution? I already know how this is going to turn out. Can we make $1 million express loans? I already know the answer to this one. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we can do that. Chris, I want to throw it to you first. You talked to Senator Rubio's office. Tell us about your conversation.
I was just trading voicemails with his chief of staff before I came in here, and I also had to get off quickly with the Wall Street Journal reporter because I'm committed.
Yeah, you and I have a private bet on who gets more interviews. I think you're ahead of me, but
well,
don't get.
I won't get too cocky. Don't worry.
Don't worry. Cocky, yes.
It might be something to do with that. I think I'm on my 90 plus hours so far worked in the last 7 days as well. But so what? I'm sorry. What was the question, Bob? I'm also reaching my maximum bandwidth. I think a little bit too. I've started to have those senior moments today, which is never really happened.
I have 2 questions. Number 1, tell everyone what you do because they may not know what you do. And
sure.
2, tell us about the conversation you had with Senator Rubio's office.
So we're a nationwide direct non-bank lender. We obviously specialize in SBA loans. We think of ourselves as the nation's leading SBA lenders. We mostly have done 504s over my career for the last 20 plus years. About a year ago, we got into the SBA 7A world because of so much demand from our borrowers to do that. And we got approved, and we've talked about that before. And so we're staying up on everything that's relating to the coronavirus economic fallout and how SBA is going to be on the front lines of trying to help save America's businesses. And we're going to be participating in that. My biggest concern lately, this week, among about 1,000 others, is making sure we get the legislation passed, but we also promulgate the rules as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, the information that you've got up on the screen there relates to the final bill that we all got, or some of us got late last night, that'll be the vehicle going through the Senate. The problem is it allows for up to 30 days for the agency to promulgate the rules. And I will tell you.
Yeah, I really thought that we were going to have rules by today.
Well, we can't wait 30 days. I mean, we really can't even wait weeks.
I agree.
We have to get this out quickly.
We all know the people there, they're professionals.
Yeah, they are. They're wonderful public servants, but they also don't do this for a living, which is why 2 nights ago we wrote a white paper specifically addressing the next phase of this, which is the regs and regulations. And we had to revise the white paper this morning, and it's now back out there again. And because we need to make it as plug and play as possible. We need to be processing these loans next week.
Chris, going to your white paper, what are your recommendations?
Well, it's just taking a lot of the specifics of what, the framework that we already have in place that the people that are watching this already know on how to do a 7A loan. We do not have time to take 2 to 3 weeks to underwrite a 7A loan, to take another 2 to 3 weeks to get it closed, going through the traditional mechanisms that we do on a day-to-day basis now. We have got to expedite everything. It's going to be about stripping back a lot of that. In the legislation that you've got on screen there, it talks about what can we do? I mean, we've got to be able to prove their payroll costs. This is mostly going to address that. We've got to prove their debt obligations. There's a formula from which we've got to go back the preceding 12 months to determine, partly to try and determine what the loan amount will actually be for these loans, because that's a legitimate concern a lot of people have. But things like making sure we get rid of the credit elsewhere test as it relates to these loans. We get rid of the personal resources test as it relates to these loans. Probably stripping back a lot of the documentation. I don't think we have time necessarily to pull tax transcripts. You're going to have a huge backlog if you attempt to go that route. We still yet have to file best available UCCs on the collateral, because if we get from here to there, we get out of the crisis, eventually our borrowers and our lenders are going to want to make sure, we will. I think we will. But we're going to want to make sure that we have perfected security interests in those assets, in that collateral, and make sure that we do, the insurance certificates correctly. We're still going to probably have to do the 1919 forms. There's still going to have to be
we have
12s. Yeah. But we got to think about how much of that can we strip back and really simplify it so that we can process loans in minutes. And I think what we've proposed gives them a pathway to do that. And that's the kinds of conversations I've been having for the last 2 or 3 days.
Good for you. Let's bring Katie into the conversation. Katie, our diversion is Fraud Friday. What did you write about today?
Well, I wanted to do something a little more exciting since everything's kind of going on, and I thought it'd be fun. So I don't know if we've got a slide for that. I think we do. There it is.
There it is.
So this is a case, Brian and Milan are two. Yeah, this gets a little. Yeah. They were check kitting, which is when you're putting checks in banks and then switching the funds to a different bank. And during that time, there's an overflow of money. And so then they use that money. And we don't know exactly how much they were able to get out of this. But in the process of doing this, they decided to one day go take some money out of the bank. And so while they're driving to the bank, there's 2 other men in the car. Nabor gets in a fight with Milan over the money, starts cussing at him, telling him where's his money. He thinks he's stolen the money out of the bank account. So the fight gets, pretty bad. Somebody ends up grabbing the wheel of the car, whipping the car into.
Not good.
Yes. Oh no! They whip the car into the road, and Nabor pulls a gun. And he ends up shooting Milan and running to, I believe might have been, it was some East Coast state. He was in Atlanta, so I don't know exactly where he ended up. He ends up running and hiding, ends up in a house. They're searching for him, and eventually the police does find him. He tries to jump out a window, and then they finally catch him.
It's just amazing, these stories. All right, we got 4 questions. Thank you all. Chris, Jeffrey asks, are we able to pay off payroll taxes with the new legislation? I say no. What do you say?
Are we able to pay off payroll taxes?
Right.
I have a feeling that's not going to be eligible. And part of our white paper talks about how you can't have existing state.
I agree with you. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, we still, we'll throw a lot of money at this, and we want to try and save a lot of businesses, but we still have to have some element of prudence.
Bill asked the question, under this proposal, would the forgiven loan amount be a loss for the lender, or how would SBA pay for the lender?
I think what you're referring to there is there's a provision in the current legislation that from March 1st of this year through June 30th this year, June 30th, if you don't lay off staff, you will be able to participate in some form of loan forgiveness amount. I don't know what that formula is going to be just yet. There's talk about excluding high paid salary executives out of that number as well. I think, we talk about this a little bit in our white paper, that I think it's going to have to be the lenders that are paid off in this case, but I think it's kind of open for interpretation. I'm not really sure mechanically how this is going to work. I think there's going to be a lot of information that we're going to find out in the days and weeks and months ahead. I'm not sure why they wanted to include this other than as an inducement to make sure people who are on the edge right now thinking about furloughing staff hopefully don't do it. And it would be an incentive for them not to, perhaps.
We've made a decision, my wife and I, and, we have like 5 employees, and we've told them that we'll take care of them.
Yep.
Samir asked if the 100% guarantee does go into effect. First of all, let me stop you there. Is that going to happen?
I think it's going to happen. I tried to talk him out of it, but again, for prudent lending reasons. But I think these are such extraordinary times that.
And then the follow-up question is, he's concerned SBA will do what it often does and try to claw away at the guarantee. I don't mean to put you on. I'm Chris. I'm not going to ask you that because I know.
No, I mean, I can answer that question. I think it's sometimes easy to attack a faceless bureaucracy such as the SBA and blame things on them and say that they're trying to pull guarantees on lenders, when oftentimes it's the lenders who have not dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's. Let's be frank. Yeah, I mean, people do make mistakes. Okay, sure, of course they do. But there's sometimes gross incompetence, and I think if you're leading a lending institution that's an SBA participating lender and you want to participate in SBA 7A relief loans, then you're gonna have to make sure that you're as meticulous as you always are. And I think under these unprecedented circumstances, I think SBA, I would like to believe they're going to be a little forgiving that you stepped up in this time of truly historic crisis and you helped to save America's businesses. I think SBA is hopefully going to give you the benefit of the doubt on a lot of this, but it remains to be seen. But I believe that they're great public servants and they're going to do what they can.
They are.
They're overwhelmed as well, just like
they're definitely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Jeff asked a great question, and this is for Chris. How would you advise a borrower who asks if they should apply for a direct disaster loan or to apply to your company?
So I've had that question many, many times the last couple of days, and including from my own staff about trying to answer questions. So I've talked about, I still ultimately think there's going to be 3 pathways here. There's going to be the EIDL loans, the EIDL loans, economic injury disaster loans that SBA does direct. I think in time, maybe next week, I think SBA is going to wave the white flag and ask for some help from the private sector, and there's going to be some sort of an arrangement, that they've got to pay us a file fee or something to help participate in that. So that'll be the second path. And then the third path is what you had on earlier, which is the new SBA 7A relief loans. So how I would advise someone earlier in the week, I answered this question this way. I said, well, get yourself in line in both places. So get yourself in line on the SBA site if it's not crashed, which it has a couple times, and get yourself in line for us or other lenders out there who are going to be participating in this. And by the way, for us, all I've done is we've tweaked our website. We've specifically called this out, and we've told people our basic documents that we need now, which is probably going to be overkill. Okay, I'm probably asking more than we will ultimately need from them to process these loans. But I'm doing it because I think they need to get in line. Number one, as I've told people, get in the queue. We have to do this in a fair and orderly
tax
fashion.
Returns done.
Well, that would be helpful, but at this stage, I don't know. It's not going to. If we're not going to do tax transcripts, that doesn't matter. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get stamped IRS on what am I trying to say? The IRS to stamp the tax returns at this point, particularly if we're sheltering in place all across the country in the next week or so. So I don't know that that's going to matter either. But here's the problem. Under the current legislation that we're talking about being passed here shortly, you've got to pick one or the other. Okay, you can't get an EIDL loan and an SBA 7A relief loan. You've got to go down one path or the other. Now, there's going to be a lot of larger companies that normally would not get SBA financing that are going to get pulled into this, that are going to get much higher than the current cap of 5 million up to the 7 million cap that's proposed in the legislation. Fortunately, there'll be much higher quality companies, better sophisticated companies, but the $2 million cap on the EIDL loans is going to be insufficient for them. Okay?
Right.
So it's just a reality.
Well, unfortunately, Katie and I are in the great state of California, and we're basically under martial law.
Well, it's going to be for the rest of us soon. Yeah.
Explain, there's all the restaurants are closed, all the bars are closed, everything is closed, and
we're going to get through this, Bob.
No, I know we are, but it's my head explodes at times. So
yeah, that's why you got to not focus on it. You just got to put your head down and help and do what you can. If you reflect too much, it'll overwhelm you.
No, and I understand my job is to be the calmer in chief. We will get through this.
Yep.
But it's difficult. Let's see. We have so many great questions.
But fire away. I got time. So if you got time.
If you laid someone off, can you rehire them and still participate in the program?
I don't know. We're going to find out. I think my gut is you probably can, because they would view that as a positive outcome of the legislation.
Very good. Very good. What else do we have on the script, guys? I know we have a ton of questions.
They'll just ask questions. I'm good. I may not have all the answers. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have all the answers, but I'll try.
Questions are coming in by droves.
Here we go.
Thank you so much. So, and by the way, I'm looking at the stats. This is our one of our biggest shows. Will everyone be able? Jeffrey asked, will everyone be able to underwrite and approve the loans as a delegate lender, even if they are not one now?
That is my understanding of the legislation. Let me back up. All participating SBA lenders now are going to be given delegated underwriting authority. If you currently don't make SBA loans now, I believe there's going to be a process with which you can get that delegated authority. But I put that in our white paper. I would caution you, though, this isn't the time for newbies to come into the program. I am concerned about that. If somebody isn't used to filing a 1502 or they don't know what a 1919 form is, I don't know that we have time to teach them at this moment, okay? And I'm a little concerned about the legislation will allow for Treasury to try to fast track some non-SBA lenders or non-traditional lenders into doing this to help out. I understand why, to help, but the alt lenders, the fintech guys, I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to get into this. But again, I would urge some caution. Yeah. Because they could clog up the system dramatically. There could be all sorts of imprudent lending done. I'm a little worried about that. I would rather, if a fintech's watching this, I would rather them try to reach out to somebody like us and let's come up with a way to do this better. Keep you in what you know best and keep us in what we know best.
Chris, when you talk to Senator Rubio's office, are they going to increase the guaranteed percentage on Express, or are we still at 50%?
I haven't heard anything about that yet. The only thing that I've seen addressed on Express at all is to raise the maximum from 350 to the million.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know they're going to raise the guarantee.
They might. I think everything's in play, Bob. I mean,
no, I know. I mean, the world's gone mad.
It's surreal, for sure.
Question for Chris. Who is in contact with Senator Rubio? Are the loans for rent and payroll that will go through lenders separate from the SBA emergency loans? Or are they the same?
No, they're going to be different. I mean, the SBA emergency loans are going to be the disaster loans, although there is some vernacular. They're calling these emergency SBA 7A relief loans. I think all of this is going to get finalized here in the days ahead, and people will know what to call what. But what was the first question she had? Oh, who's in contact with Rubio? Well, yeah, and I'm sure there's others. I know. Yeah, he is my senator. I know I've been in contact with folks at IFA. I've been in contact with folks at AHOA. They're all working diligently on this as well. Some have better proposals than others. I mean, some folks are unfortunately looking at this crisis as an opportunity to just Christmas tree everything, as opposed to just to focus on the relevant matters at hand. And I'm trying to do my part to keep us focused on what we can do in the SBA world.
Last question. What about guarantee fees? What's happening with those?
Guarantee fees are going to be waived for both the borrower and the lenders as part of the legislation.
All right.
That's an easy one. Yep.
All right. We have a bunch more questions. We're going to hold these over till Monday. Thank you all so much. We have a record crowd online. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern.
Be safe and healthy, everybody. All right. Take care.